Thanks for tuning in to Bloomberg Quint. We talk a lot about what's happening to the business landscape. There are multiple facets to the business landscape. It's not just about what India Inc. and the listed entities are doing. What are SMEs doing? What are innovators doing? And what can be done over the course of the next 2, 3, 5 years to ensure that this space also gets the much needed help to grow larger and propel growth. With me to talk about all of this is an industry veteran, Mr. Harsh Mariwala. Needs no introduction, joins us right now. Mr. Mariwala, so good having you. Thanks so much for joining in. Can I start off with a broad brush view that you may have currently on what's happening within, not necessarily the industry, but the space at large, and are there steps that can necessarily be taken to alleviate what is looking like a bit of a slowing economy?
Yeah, I think last 2 or 3 years we've had some discontinuous steps taken by the government, starting with demonetization and then followed up with GST. And at one level they have settled down to some extent, but one doesn't know the real impact of this as far as the impact on the business is concerned. Because when demonetization happened, we saw that especially in our business, the wholesale channel, the distributors, they got impacted. When GST came in again, those people who were evading taxes, they got impacted. And as the government starts tightening its hold on GST, and rightfully they should be doing that, we still have to see what will be the impact on the business, because as GST becomes foolproof in terms of avoiding tax evasion, I think there will be some impact on players who were evading, and they are still continuing to evade after the GST launch, because it is not a full-fledged kind of all the loopholes have not been filled. So we have to wait and watch what will be the impact of that. In addition to that, being a part of a global economy is something which has had its impact on the Indian environment. The global economy is not doing badly, but I don't know what has been the impact, the trade wars. So again, a lot of discontinuity on the global side, disruptions, on top of that predictable disruptions. And then was unpredictability about monsoon. The only thing which has been predictable is we have a stable government, which is a good thing. So all in all, it's a fairly complex subject, and I think I have discussed this with many industry leaders, and I believe that they predict that in the next 3 months, in the next 6 months, it will improve. I believe that it is a bit of a wishful thinking, because the factors which have led to this are so complex that I am not able to predict when will the recovery take place. It will happen at some stage, because some of the positive impact of reforms will kick in. But to say that it will happen post-monsoon is, I think, wishful thinking.
Oh, okay. One thing is what the industry tailwinds are, or the economic tailwinds are, and what businesses can do. The other thing is whether businesses themselves have matured, have transitioned enough to be able to withstand some pain and then recover, or rather shoot off on the growth path once the other things stabilize. Do you think Indian businesses are slowly but surely scaling up to that level?
They have to do this, and I think that's one of the as an industrialist or as a promoter or as a company manager, we have to look at what can we do on our own rather than going on blaming the environment. And Indian businesses have always looked at environment and what has been the impact on their business. And can we say that, okay, you are a very, very small player in a very large country, you will also be a small player in your own segment of business, and there are enough opportunities for innovation, for creating growth, rather than blaming environment. And I wish that Indian industries looked internally rather than blaming externally. Internally in terms of improving quality of their talent, having the right strategy, bring in focus, bring in innovations, have a growth mindset. If they do this, then I think the blaming the environment will reduce dramatically, because in the worst of sectors we've seen some companies thriving because they've done something which is really impactful to the consumer. So don't get swayed by the economy not growing by much higher growth rates, but do things on your own which will make you stand out.
What would you wish, Mr. Mariwala, that, for example, that consumer space, discretionary otherwise? The reason I ask this question is also this, that I remember in the past, whenever auto sales would slow down, and just using a discretionary sector as an example, companies would say, we need some excise benefits, some benefit, this benefit, etc., 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 and things used to come back. This time around, one or two companies may have said that, but we've had Maruti come out and say that we don't need any kind of rollbacks of rates, etc. We'll manage on our own. So what is it that you see Indian companies not doing, or you would wish that some of these innovations be done to give you that confidence as an industry veteran that things are looking much better than what they were maybe 10 years ago?
I would say the most important thing is have a very, very deep insight of what the consumer needs are, and tailor make your product in line with that. Suppose if you are in motor cars, for example, then a lot of your features may not be relevant to the consumer. Can you cut down some of your features and reduce the price points? I'm just giving one example.
Sure, of course.
Or do some innovations, So these SOPs, as you were rightly saying, they will have a very short-term effect, in terms of bringing back. The government also doesn't have that much of resources to give in SOPs, and we've seen it in this budget. That no SOPs have come, which is a good thing. Every time you can't go to the government and say, I want SOPs, Can you do something on your own to drive growth, whether it's pricing or whether it is innovations or whether it is whatever is required to drive growth, So it's very important to drive your own journey. I understand sometimes the business can get impacted because of the environment, but can you overcome that by doing something unusual? Because in a bad industry also, as I said earlier, there are good players, or there are players who are doing well.
Okay. What can innovators do, Mr. Mariwala? We're seeing them come, right? There is this whole electric vehicle push, so there is innovation happening out there. There is innovation in consumers, wherein while we've seen these small players come and expand size to 1, 2, 3, 4 cities, they are facing problems while they're innovators, they are not able to go to the pan-India basis as well. And I'm just using 2 sectors as an example. What can innovators do to take advantage of this landscape?
I would say, first of all, innovators have to identify what innovation will create value to the consumer. Innovation is not an end by itself. Ultimately, it has to create value for the end user. So is it really creating value? If it is creating value, then you have to back it up by investing resources and ensuring that the innovation succeeds. So innovation is many times equated with creativity, but it is much beyond that. It is actually, if the innovation is really good, which is making sense to the consumer, it has to be executed well, because if it is not executed well, then it's a lost opportunity. So how do you scale it up is also very, very crucial, if you don't have the distribution network, or it means that if you have to put in more money in driving that initiative, one has to do that. And separately, it's a matter of time, others will start copying you. So how can you be 2 steps ahead of others? On a perpetual basis, how can you go on innovating? Because it's a matter of time in this world that people will copy you very, very quickly. So you have to be 2 steps ahead of others, And if you have built that image of an innovative kind of a brand or a company, then it'll start showing results in your financials also.
Is the Indian consumer space doing that, Mr. Mariwala? Because I hear 2 stories again. A set of people say that the Indian consumer space depends on distribution to spread its tentacle wide. But we've seen that distribution is no longer the property of 1 or 2 behemoths. There are other companies which are using social media and other platforms to do that.
So all the other entry barriers which happened earlier, especially in FMCG companies, which distribution was a big entry barrier, almost got managed. Okay, there is some, if you want to go rural, you will have those barriers, but one can start a brand just by selling on e-commerce or selling it to the modern trade. And the need of putting in big money in terms of advertising for television or press is also not there, because now you can do digital marketing, which will not require big bang budgets. So the entry barriers for new brands to get in, which were existing earlier, have gone down. And to that extent, we have seen the new businesses coming up also in FMCG and starting new businesses which have performed well, and these are innovative initiatives. So whether it was one brand of Beardo, which we have taken a stake in, which was making products for the beard industry, or in a baby care, there's a company by the name of Mama Earth, which is coming out with a very innovative range of products for mothers and babies, for colic pain and natural products. And so I think we are seeing many innovations happening because those entry barriers of distribution, marketing entry barriers in terms of big bang advertising have reduced dramatically, which is a very good thing.
You think they'll remain innovators and niche players, or can these companies mushroom into something really big?
I would say depending on how big is their scale, but most of them, once they reach a certain scale, they may not be able to go beyond that scale, because then it requires you to tap the distribution network. So if the opportunity is very big, then they can set up on their own. But otherwise, beyond that, they may have to enter into some alliances or partnerships or selling out to some FMCG company.
Is that innovation as well? I mean, I'm just asking you, I think in 2003, I presume you set up this Marico Innovation Foundation with the intent of recognizing innovation. Over the last 15 or 16 years, right? 16 years, have you seen that mindset of how to innovate change within a lot of smaller companies or within larger companies as well? Because I'm guessing larger companies too have to consistently innovate.
So when we started this, we did it on the back of realization that innovation has played a very crucial role in Marico's journey in the year 2003. And at that time, innovation was not on top of the agenda of the CEOs.
Okay.
But we wanted to bring it to the top of the agenda, not only on the business front, but also on the social front.
Okay.
Because we believed that if Indian businesses innovate, they can become global businesses. If Indian society can benefit in innovations, it can leapfrog. One has seen what has happened through the mobile revolution. I mean, earlier days, we could not get a telephone connection. Now everybody has a mobile. So the same opportunity exists in driving disruptive growth and a quantum jump in many of our society needs, whether it's education or whether it's healthcare. You can actually leapfrog much beyond through digital means, through innovative approaches. And I think that's the reason why we started the Marico Innovation Foundation. And over a period of time, we've seen a huge shift amongst Indian in terms of driving innovation. Each and every business now realizes that we have to be innovative. But having realized is one step. How do you innovate is a larger challenge. And how, after innovating, how do you execute also is equally important. I think that's where I find that many organizations are struggling a bit,
Not just startups, even large ones.
Even the large ones, because, okay, innovation is important, but how do you crack innovation on a perpetual basis? How do you create a culture of innovation? It's just not innovation doesn't happen in R&D labs itself, it cuts across all different functions. So that's something it will happen over a period of time as businessmen realize what kind of a culture is required to drive innovations.
Would that be the key to survival? I'm asking a radical question, but
yeah, I would think so,
there are global companies coming in and attacking the Indian turf.
I would think so. As competition increases in India, still competitive levels are lesser than international competitive levels. But as competition increases, there will be a force to innovate. If you don't innovate, you will just die. So it has to increase in the context of increasing competition.
A lot of innovative measures again, or measures that we see in in pockets which are trying to attack the scarcity of resources that we have in India, for example, are at that startup phase wherein there are small companies which get helping hand from one or two larger names, etc., but doesn't quite move ahead. Yes. In your experience, again, whether through the Marico Innovation Foundation or otherwise, have you seen a change in there, or will it remain a fledgling company which will grow to a certain size and then get usurped?
So, very good question. We have over a period of time taken many initiatives in the Marico Innovation Foundation. We started off initially with awards, where we awarded good innovators both on the business and the social side, and we've been having an award function once in 2 years.
It's coming up, I presume.
So we have our Marico Innovation Foundation Awards coming up in February 2020. And we take these awards very, very seriously because We invite entries and we reach out to a lot of people. On average, we get about 500 to 600 entries. More importantly, we ensure that those entries which have come up are evaluated in a very, very detailed manner and identify that really what they are doing is innovative. So we have a knowledge partner, and this year Boston Consulting Group is a knowledge partner, and they would sit with us and then shortlist both business and social innovations. And then it will be presented to jury one, and so jury one will debate, ideate, and then shortlist some of the good entries. And then the knowledge partner will actually visit those shortlisted entries and give their report in terms of how innovative that company has been or that initiative has been. And we have a second jury. So it's very unlike a typical award function where jury decides within 2 hours, and I've been a many part of many other juries. We take it very, very seriously. Just take 2 days of jury work plus a lot of outside work. And then the award function itself has over a period of time progressed to almost like a signature event where anything to do with innovation, people are equating this. I go on getting requests from those who attended the award function in the past, when is the next award function? And we also have increased the capacity of our people who attend, and on average we get about, last year I think we got about 1,000 plus people coming and attending that award function. We train the speakers, and no thank yous of mother and father, and but we actually straight away train them in a TED manner, and what has made that innovation happen. So awards over a period of time have become far more aspirational, and we've seen that the number of entries and the type of entries which have come in are also far more aspirational. So once the awards are given, we try and give some publicity, some coverage to the award winners, and then we also give them an offer of how can we help you scale up. Because many a times, many innovators have done innovations on a very small basis or a small scale, and they don't know how to scale. So I personally get involved. We have a set of mentors who are ex-CEOs. We also have our Marico talent team. They also help in this. We work with outside consultants also to help these award winners scale up. So depending on what the challenge they have, we hold their hands and help them scale up. And on average, we have about 6 to 8 organizations who are in the scale-up journey, and we've seen very good response from organizations who have been innovative, and they have really scaled up because of our inputs.
Okay. You reckon, Mr. Mariwala, one final question, you reckon that some of the startup or the innovation landscape in India and then hand-holding from established or experienced hands could lead to India finding a number of global scale companies? Because hitherto, frankly, if you look at the Indian startup landscape, there aren't too many companies which have achieved that global world-beating scale.
Yes.
There are a handful of names out there. The others are quite not able to match up. Do you think that can happen soon?
It may take some time, because innovation in India has we have to do a lot of catch-up, starting with our educational system, starting with how society views failures and tolerance to failures, starting with an ecosystem where startups get advice from a lot of thought leaders. So we are moving towards that, but to say that this will happen within a short period of time, I would think it may not happen.
I mean, Prime Minister's scheme for that Startup India received a lot of...
Yes, I think these are all the right initiatives, but you cannot just create global scale companies overnight.
Sure.
So it's a matter of time, I would say. But most importantly, I would suggest that those innovators who have done some innovations, I would urge them to apply for our awards. Okay. The application process is about to begin very soon. It will be there on our website, Marico Innovation Foundation.org is our website, and I would urge them to apply. All I can assure you is that if you have a good innovation, you will get, hopefully you'll get awarded. You'll get a lot of traction in terms of your image, and more importantly, we will help you to scale up innovation. and it will become a very important role in your own journey, whether you're running a business or whether you're running a social organization which has been innovative, because the social organizations also need support and they also need innovation, which will have a huge impact on the India's overall social growth. So with that, I would urge those who are passionate about innovation to look at this subject and partner with us in terms of applying and just getting benefit out of those applications and winning the awards.
Okay, I hope people are listening into this. Thanks so much, Mr. Mariwala, for joining in today and giving us your perspectives.
Okay.
Viewers, thanks for tuning into this broadcast from Bloomberg Quint.